What's up, dudes? Max here, back to making some more videos. I know there hasn't been a lot on the channel over the past week or so. I'm trying to try to fix that, some daily content with gameplay videos and some talking points and stuff like that. Today is going to be a talking point, and it's going to be about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And I know with a ton of people, the last time I spoke about the roster of this game, avidly think that I really hate the game right now, and I'm harking on it way too much, which is just, I somehow have managed to be on the side of Capcom as a giant Capcom shill, and a complete huge Capcom hater at the same time, according to many people, which is just the greatest place to be. That isn't going to stop me from making the kind of content that I want to make, but just try to absorb the fact that it is possible to kind of like something even though it's not nearly as good as the other games. That is pretty mind-blowing. What I wanted to talk about Marvel Infinite today is my quote-unquote crazy bullshit. There were situations that were happening with the game's mechanics at Comic-Con that were leading me to kind of be on the side of the gameplay of the game a bit more than the stuff at EVO, and especially that friggin' terrible gameplay demo that was for the story up on PlayStation and Xbox Live. The stuff that was specifically happening, I quoted crazy bullshit because this was what I was telling the Capcom guys directly as we were trading matches off and stuff like that. I'm like, I could barely even understand what's going on, but while the gameplay went further and while I started absorbing more and trying to understand what exactly is happening, and upon reviewing the footage, it's most likely the things that I'm most excited about the game. I'd like to reiterate why I feel this way about it, because Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was very close to being an extremely neutered version of Marvel in terms of its gameplay. Albeit it is pretty neutered in terms of the roster and the art design, the gameplay I was possibly the most concerned with simply because we came from Street Fighter V, and that was a very controlled fighting game. A lot of the combos and everything there upon discovery feels like it is designed for it to be a very specific way, so there isn't a lot of character discovery in that game, and knowing the fact that Capcom is going very full esports with a lot of their stuff, they might do something similar with Marvel vs. Capcom, which to me eliminates the entire idea of MVC. The first month to 2 months to 3 months of a Marvel vs. Capcom game to me are fucking magical. The variety of players, everyone taking their characters, a relatively large roster, people trying to figure out what the hell they can do with the new system and find the most insane damage and resets like that, that is the epitome of fighting games for me. That moment of discovery, whether or not you're discovering things or find something that someone else discovered and you're trying it, is so crazy and fun in the first couple of months in a Marvel vs. Capcom game that I'm probably looking forward to that more than the most. And luckily enough, upon my very early impressions and really not a lot of gameplay time, even though it's more than most people, if not the most average person going to these events had the time to play with, there's some pretty crazy stuff in this game. Now, before I get into the specifics, I want to offer a counterpoint because I feel that the things I'm about to describe actually go against the whole casuals can also play this game too. There's a lot of things and modes in the game that offer casuals an easier time with the auto combos and everything like that, almost to the point where you had these auto combos in the previous Marvel vs. Capcom games. You had like easy and manual. The easy mode combos in the previous games were not good, and you found better things really fast, and that is immediately the case with this game. However, there are some easy mode applications that do end up being pretty good where you don't have to worry about execution. In fact, some of the guys I was playing against while he was doing awesome Spider-Man combos, I was like, this stuff looks really difficult. The end, he specifically uses an easy mode combo, which is just one button repeated, so that he can get a very refined version of a super out and not have to worry about doing the motion. I'm gonna wait till the game comes out to kind of pass full judgment on the thing until I start using it a bit more and understanding what it can be used for and how it can be abused and whether or not that's a good thing. This ties back to the mechanics I was talking about because those easy mode combos, well, they're assisting really good players, which is funny. That's kind of the downside of going for kind of a casual audience and taking the mechanics and applying them in certain ways. It just makes it easier for pro players to do really hard stuff. And I don't feel that this game specifically is going to cater to casuals enough, because when you start doing all the tag stuff and when you start really utilizing the mechanics the game has to offer, which is like constant switching, constant throwing in of your characters, constantly doing something that is either frustrate, fill the screen with projectiles, all this stuff, I honestly kind of feel that this game is not made for the casual audience. Like, when I actually play it, it feels like one of the more difficult Marvel vs. Capcom games to play. And upon expressing that opinion, I was met with dudes on Twitter that have actually played the game a lot. Guys like Keats, that was a huge Marvel vs. Capcom fan, who was a designer on Killer Instinct, as well as several other Marvel vs. Capcom and Capcom game veterans saying, kind of the same thing. The more they play the game, the less casual friendly it appears. You can go crazy filling the screen with projectiles, tagging your opponent, and if your opponent doesn't know how to do perfect advancing guards, which aren't super hard, but do require at least a little bit of timing, and if they don't know how to do certain things like the counter switch mechanic, which is the big thing I'm going to be talking about today, then my god, dude, it could feel like you are never ever given a chance in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Is that specifically a bad thing? Well, for the sake of which they're going for the marketing aspect of the game, maybe, because when I've actually played more of it, at the very low level we're currently playing it at, it makes it really difficult for people that are just hitting buttons or even have a really general understanding to even do remotely well. Whether or not it turns out that way, there's a lot of crazy bullshit in this game right now. And this is the one I really wanted to talk about, and we're gonna break down a very specific moment that was within the 2 hours or so of gameplay footage I got over the past couple weeks, or the past month or so. And this thing specifically is going over the counter switch mechanic and how it sets up for the most ridiculous of situations. Here, check this out.
When it comes to these games, you know they're gonna change up your character drastically.
Yeah.
What the fuck? No. What? Look at this mutant shit!
We were reviewing the footage with Kenny and Steve and everyone else that is really looking forward to Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite on, like, video games, and we were just like, what the hell? It's hard to kind of comprehend what's going on in these moments because there's so much tagging and characters on the screen, and who the hell are you controlling and what the hell is going on? Let's take a look at what specifically happened in this moment in slow motion, because these were the situations that got me pretty excited when I was playing the game, which is once again a lot of crazy bullshit, but it's chaos. And that's the thing I love about the Marvel vs. Capcom games, is controlling the insanity and the chaos. And this is a pretty chaotic moment, so let's go over it frame by frame. So after a failed reset, I'm on Red Strider, we had Purple Strider. Purple Strider comes in and gets interrupted by Red Strider because the reset was ineffective. Red Strider's gonna launch up Purple Strider at this point, and I'm gonna continue up for the aerial rave and get my, well, at least minimal damage that I have as a result of playing this game for only about a couple hours on this day. Do a slight light punch attack, do another light punch attack, the aerial combo counter is tagged on the right side, and then the screen goes a ridiculous inverted color. But this is important because this inverted color highlights a huge mechanic, which is, as you can see on the left, counter switch. Now, counter switch is something that not a ton of people are using in the game right now. You literally hold down the tag button while you are receiving damage, and for the cost of 2 bars, your character loses control and you tag in your other character, giving you an opportunity to essentially interrupt the combo at place, but it's not a technical combo breaker. It doesn't just stop the combo immediately. It just brings in your character, gives you control of that one, and you have to go stop the big fight from happening. But that isn't specifically what happens here, because a lot more happens right after that. I'm still controlling the different Strider in the top right as the counter switch freezes time. I'm still continuing to do my combo, and here comes Gamora. Player 1 at this point no longer has control of Purple Strider. He's just essentially a body. So there's a fight going on up here. Gamora comes in to try to interrupt what the hell just happened, and she misses. I get really lucky, Strider continues forward, and activates Super. So at this point, I'm still in control of Red Strider, and Player 1 is in control of Gamora with that whiffed-ass big special attack. I go into Strider's big aerial super, which does a pretty decent amount of damage no matter how long the combo is. And at this point, I am going to tag in my other character as soon as this animation ends. So here we go. Gamora is about to fall to the ground, and I perform active switch, meaning that Mega Man, who's on my team, is currently in my control. So at this point, the characters that are on the right side of the screen are in control of the players. Player 1 is in control of Gamora, I'm in control of Mega Man, he's running in to do a regular active switch, but there's a whole different fight happening on the top. So now my goal with Mega Man is essentially to stop Gamora from interrupting the combo or the rest of the super. Of course, Mega Man turns around because the active player character is Gamora, and here's where the crazy bullshit starts happening. We're fighting down here, the super is still happening up there, and Player 1's gonna try to stop his other character from taking damage. But Mega Man ain't gonna have none of that shit. He runs up and misses the attack. Fantastic job, Max, doing a really good job at interrupting this thing. But here's where the crazy stuff is happening. We have one fight taking place with the Striders in the top left, and no one is in control of these characters, and we're literally fighting on the right-hand side of the screen. They're gonna fall down, and we're gonna continue battling over here because, of course, the characters are gonna face which player controller is actually in control and not which the other characters are, because they're essentially dummies just continuing the motions we gave them. And even Strider on the left side, the purple Strider, is in an OTG state, so he can be hit. So we might actually get hit by this thing right here. Yes, he does. Like, what in the shit, dude? This moment right here, this was the stuff that actually got me the most excited about the game. This was the reason I wanted to make that other video talking about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, the Real Talk Revisited, because with a lot of the issues of the game, it sets up for some extremely insane and fun moments like this that I wasn't anticipating. And like I said before, I was anticipating a very controlled Marvel vs. Capcom game. We're losing assists. It's going down to 2 versus 2. This is not going to be good, man. It's just going to be neutered. But with these kind of moments that happen here, it's pretty unique, and it doesn't really feel like any other Marvel, which is most likely the reason why it's Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and not Marvel vs. Capcom 4, because it obviously is just taking a lot of assets from Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and putting them in really ridiculous situations that you would never get into in those other games. If anything, the one thing about the gameplay that has excited me the most is that it feels a lot more like the first Marvel vs. Capcom, which was a 2 versus 2 fighting game with limited assists. In this game, it's essentially like you take out the assists or the limited assists, you have your 2v2, and you just expand on the 2v2 aspect and let crazy shit happen. Moments like this remind me of that cross fever thing where you could bring in all 4 characters at the same time in Marvel vs. Capcom 1, which is the most ridiculous and busted thing in the world, but it is very flashy and very fun and very cool to look at. Do I think this is going to be balanced and it's going to be good for competitive play? Probably not. It's going to lead to some ridiculously insane and broken stuff as a result, but I'm not really interested in how specifically competitive the game is going to be. I just want it to be fun. The fun factor is really the last thing I'm really clamoring onto for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and believe it or not, amongst all the issues with the game, with the roster, with the fact that its single player doesn't look really great in terms of its story, even though that's the huge draw of it, along with the art style and many of the things I have made several videos about, and everyone has claimed that I am being way too harsh on Capcom and I should give the game more of a chance. I'm sorry guys, I'm gonna be critical of that stuff at all times, and regardless of whether or not you think I'm a shill, this was extremely fun. I really had fun playing this aspect of the game, and when these moments started happening more and more, and we got more familiar with the tagging and counter switching like that, it became really, really enjoyable. Just to throw on this in terms of a super technical aspect of the mechanics, if you guys are looking forward to this, I think the counter switch is way more viable than doing level 1 supers or even level 3 supers at the end of combos. Combos scale so hard in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite that you can generally do a base combo that does about 50% that really isn't that hard to do. And when you throw on the super, it only adds about 10 to 15% more. Even if you throw on a level 3, it only adds about 20 to 25% more. And that's really not worth the damage at all. My early prediction is that the meta of this game is going to revolve around counter switching. It's going to revolve around setting up those moments, and if you know your opponent's going to counter switch, you active switch in your character to start another fight while that fight is still happening up there. It's a lot more effective than throwing out some cheeseball super that doesn't do any damage unless you know it's going to kill. If you know it's going to kill, then absolutely do the super, but it's obvious in this game that, man, the supers scale ridiculously hard at the end of combos, so it might be good just going for a reset at the end of your combos instead of going for the pitiful damage that comes as a result of supers. But yeah, it's not really a combo breaker mechanic, it's something a lot different, and that's what I like about it. There's nothing like this in Marvel vs. Capcom games for the most part that's set up for situations like this, and that's really the reason why I'm looking forward to the game. Oh yeah, Strider's also friggin' sick. Like, he's like one of my favorite versions of Strider ever. So it gets brownie points in that area. That's all I got right now, guys. I hope to break down some more stuff very soon in terms of the gameplay, talking about the gems and which ones I think are powerful, which is the early day 1, incredibly high tier one, and which ones I think are kind of the more underrated gemstones, because that is going to be a huge part of the game. The stones in this game really change the way you can approach a match, albeit they kind of feel broken right now, but it wouldn't be a Marvel vs. Capcom game if it wasn't broken. Either way, that's all I got right now. If you dudes like this kind of thing, the likes and the dislike bar are essentially what I use to gauge what people want to see a lot of the time. So if you want to see more stuff breaking down ridiculous moments and gameplay, I'll happily do it, but it really comes down to what you guys want to see. But don't worry, I'm still going to be critical of the game in many other regards. We're going to have more roster members that are going to come up that I'll give you my brutal, honest opinion on. And we'll see if they're fun or different, because the different stuff is the stuff that I find the most fun about the game, because when you see new stuff, to me, that's exciting. As always, dudes, thank you a ton for watching. My name is Max, and I'll see you next time.